What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you with another awesome review today, and I have been teasing this for a bit. I finally finished reading it. This is Marvel Masters of Suspense, Volume 2, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And these are the short stories that Steve Ditko drew for Marvel throughout his tenure, through Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish, Journey into Mystery, Amazing Adult Fantasy, all sorts of cool titles. And they were mostly 5-page shorts. There's a couple different ones. There's a couple 3-pagers in there and a couple longer ones in there, but they mostly stuck to 5 pages, which is one splash page introducing the story and then 4 pages of actual story itself. And they're just gorgeous. I lost the dust jacket for this. I have no idea where it is, which is a big bummer because, this is a pride of my collection of things. But you see that without the dust jacket, it's got awesome Steve Ditko art blown up, which wraps around to the back. Very cool. The other volume is blue. This one is red. And so you can tell them apart pretty easily without the dust jackets. All right, getting into this is the last of the era of Ditko, before Ditko kind of quit Marvel and did his thing here. And you got a great table of contents right here. It goes from December 1961 all the way up to October 1963 for his last works. Now, the stuff in 1961, you get a very short intro right here, first off. 126 short stories, they say. The last volume had a really nice intro on it, which was a little better than this intro. It was like 3 or 4 pages. I think it was from Roger Stern. This covers a lot of stuff. What's cool about the Amazing Adult Fantasy issues is you get the covers, which Ditko did. You get this like interior contents page, which goes over the stories also, which is pretty neat. And you get the entire volume because Ditko did every piece in each one of these. And so these are really fun to go through just to see a full issue and what it looked like back in the day. There's color restorations, as you can see, that are just like very shiny and bright. It looks like a brand new comic. I absolutely love reading this. And the Amazing Adult Fantasy stuff tends to be a little better than the other stories. I don't know if we put more work into these magazines themselves, but it seems like they had a little bit of different stories in Amazing Adult Fantasy, where as the stuff in Journey into Mystery and the like was a little more formulaic. And I saw this once I started getting through these into the different issues here. Here's the end, say coming next. You see he did the full art for what's coming in the next issue also. You tend to see that in some of these issues there's a lot of repetition of concepts by this point, because I've read 2 full volumes of this, and that's about close to 1,400 pages total of comics, so it's a ton. And these were never meant to be read in this format like this. They were, these are tales that were in part of comics for a long time. Just beautiful. Look at the cool colors and how they manipulated them, showing kind of dark nighttime things. Very neat looked. And you can kind of get a feel on these for Ditko's way that he shaded things also, which is just beautiful. But there's a lot of similar concepts. There's a lot of stories of criminals who escaped or are on the run, and then they finally get brought to justice in some weird way. A lot of stories about time travel, and oops, you really can't do time travel. Sorry about that. Don't try to manipulate time. A lot of stories about alien invasions, that there's some human who does something and it's always like some mundane fact of life, but the aliens find out that, the Earthlings are stronger than they thought they were because of that. So there are a lot of repetitions in here. But there's also some good stories too. All the way around. I had a lot of fun with this. Now, what's cool about being able to read a book like this is you can go through, and here's one about magic, and you can go through and read like one of these in between things. If you're in another book, you can read one of these short stories real quick or whatever as a palate cleanser or whatnot, and and just kind of go back to the other book. So I've actually read this over the last couple months because, you know, it's such an easy way to do that. And it makes it a little more of a joyful experience, I think. Lots of science fiction, The Secret of the Black Planet. Little advertisement. Here's Ditko drawing the Fantastic Four. Pretty neat. Does a great job there. Lots of cool little art pieces in here. And actually, some of this amazing adult fantasy stuff has letters at the back of it, as I recall. At least the last issue talked about it. Where is that? Maybe not. The last issue, oh, here we are. The next issues will feature a new feature called Letters to the Editor. And once we get into that, it's pretty fun watching that and watching people's reaction. There was a couple reactions that are pretty fun, and they're like, you need to take adult out of the thing because it makes it so kids don't want to read it. And there's nothing wrong with these stories, and there's not. They're all, they're not graphic at all. Man of Iron? Wait a minute. Where have I heard about a man of iron in Tales to Astonish before? Very funny. So they did recycle a bunch of ideas into superheroes. I guess the difference is, in these, there's always a guy who is like got a concept where he weighs as much as iron and he falls through the earth basically because he can't get out because he's so heavy because iron's so heavy. And it's a be careful what you wish for sort of setup. So in these short stories, even though they can recycle a lot of the concepts, there's one that looked exactly like the Hulk. You see some people that look like May and Ben Parker kind of often. Ditko really loves that look of Aunt May. I guess the difference is they take these horror concepts and like it's always something bad happening to somebody, or like it's a villain to fight. Now, when they twist it to Iron Man, obviously that concept of a man of iron is then taken to be heroic instead. So, very cool. This Clockwork story was very fun, but I really love these ones in Amazing Adult Fantasies. Very cool. Living statues, all sorts of. They're all over the map, and you get all sorts of settings, all sorts of cool things. Beautiful stuff. And this little Nick Fury eye patch, right? Lots of concepts that you see that end up later, especially in the early Fantastic Four. I noticed that a lot of, like, you know, the ray guns and the time travel and things like that looks a lot like these stories from these short stories that kind of get put into those. And here's the letters column. I find this tremendously fun, going through these old letters and seeing what people think about these. You get a lot of advertisements too. The Hulk is coming, so they're advertising for their future books. I'm glad Marvel left all that in there, so you kind of know exactly what's going on. I Am a Martian was very fun. Nobody would believe him. And just cool stuff all the way around. Great Zeus. And another cool feature that they put in here was the favorite stories of people. So Where Walks the Ghost was the favorite in Amazing 11. Second favorite was The Secret Universe. I don't know how they tallied this up at all, but at least they did something like that. Pretty fun. I like that kind of fun stuff. All sorts of fun stuff. And it goes up to Amazing Fantasy 15, of course. Now, Amazing Fantasy 15 did not just have the Spider-Man story. It had other stories in the book also, just like the other Amazing Fantasies. And it announces that it's the last issue, and it's going to reprint. It's going to move. Amazing is going to transition into Spider-Man. It doesn't say it's going to be Amazing Spider-Man. Interesting how they did that, just so they could deal with the titles and all that. They do not print the Spider-Man story in this book. It's just the short stories of the other stuff. So you will have to go get the Spider-Man Omnibus or whatnot if you want to go read those, which is fine because that doesn't really fit with these stories. So I'm kind of glad that I got a continuation here. This is a fun one. The gorilla. This guy is like a huckster, and he says there's a talking gorilla from outer space, and he's a ventriloquist. But it turns out the gorilla actually talks, and he's going to bring him back to his home planet since he's the only one who can understand him. So funny. This Jasper's Jalopy was very fun. So basically everybody's making fun of the old guy because of his car. And there's some morals to the stories of these too, which is always nice too. And the car doesn't want them to go across this rickety bridge. And so the car, they get out of the car, and the car stops stalling and goes over and shows them that it was trying to save them from this accident. And nobody made fun of old people again, was the was the moral of this story. Interesting times in the 60s, right? Toy soldiers that are real, just all sorts of cool concepts through here. And I think those recycled concepts really were in that, this kind of in the first era here. Once it gets towards the end, they do a lot. Ditko seems to be a little freer in what he's doing with a lot of this stuff. I think that might have been his doing. So what I understand is he actually came up with a lot more plots than he's given credit for. And there was a little fight with Stan Lee and all that over who's getting credit for what. And Ditko probably at this point was given a little more free reign. This is a fun one, going back to Merlin's castle, and Merlin's fighting a knight who doesn't believe he actually has real power. Very, very fun. And very, very much a commentary of somebody like being negative toward somebody who actually has talent, right? Which I very much enjoyed on that. But Ditko did a lot of these storylines himself, and Stan Lee kind of just dialogued some of it. And you could tell that this is definitely Stan Lee dialogue throughout this entire thing. I've been reading Ditko's shorts in the Fantagraphics archives, which are not as well restored as this from the color perspective, but they're very nice compilations also. And the dialogue's very different. So Stan Lee has a very consistent dialogue style, which is very easy to read, so he should get some credit. But on the other front, I know that Ditko came up with a lot of concepts, did things, and wasn't given as much plotting credit as he deserved all the way around. I mean, this goes into the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange stuff also. So, and that led to eventually Ditko quitting Marvel and just going and doing his own thing. And that is the end of it. So we get the last stories here. The last story in the volume and the last story ever published is about these creatures who are worshipped by this tribe, and this guy who's an explorer kind of goes and tries to tell everybody, but nobody will believe him. And this professor tells him that he's just delusional and he needs to take a break or something. And he's satisfied with that answer. It turns out they're everywhere and they're masking themselves as humans. And then you get some cool non-colored art, so you can really see Ditko's just genius here. Look at the shading. The shading is unbelievably crisp, and the expressions are just so neat all the way around. It's so trippy. And you get just different stuff. He just did different things with different stories. Another beautiful shading from the door, just done all in the inks there. Awesome. Great stuff. Very happy to see all this stuff, and the originals just make it nice too. I almost want to see a black and white version of this stuff because it's pretty cool. And that's it. That's the whole volume. I'm sad it's over. I wish they did 50 years of these kind of stories with Lee and Ditko. That would have been awesome if they just kept doing it forever. I would have bought all the omnibuses of them. But this is it. Sad to see it go. Sad to be complete in it. But there's a ton of other Ditko stories I'll be reviewing, of course, on the channel coming up soon. If you like Steve Ditko and his work, leave a comment down below. Make sure to pick this up. This is like the highest recommendation of any book I could ever get. This is 10 out of 10 awesomeness for comics. This is what comics should be. And hit that like and subscribe button, everybody. I will be back soon.